When it comes to the bucket system, I like to start here, the summary page. This gives us kind of an idea of how many golfers from each bucket we want to play from. And before I get further into this, just a reminder, if you have no idea what the bucket system is, I actually have two resources you can use. One, check out the video that I created for the bucket system. There's a link for that video in the description of this video. Just click on it, watch the first 5-6 minutes. You might not even have to watch that much. It is an 18-minute long video, but it explains about the bucket system. If you don't have the ability to listen to that, or even have the attention span for it, you can read about it. If you go to my website, SweetSpotDFS.com, again, there's a link for that in the description. You go to Fantasy Tools, go to Articles. I have opened up a new tab. This is loading. You're going to find two articles that I have written. One is for combo buckets. The other one is for the bucket system. If you just click on the bucket system, it's actually going to open up a new tab, and you're going to be able to read all about the bucket system, what it is, all the stats that I look at, and how each of the buckets are created. So again, SweetSpotDFS.com, under articles, you can check it out there. But when we go back to this page, again, I shouldn't say again, if you're just watching the bucket system version of this video, I will say this. I have this available to you on the cheat sheet as well. There is a link for the cheat sheet down in the description, and once again, you can find the cheat sheet on the website under Fantasy Tools Cheat Sheet. And that'll bring you to this page. You can click this button here, and it'll actually bring you to the cheat sheet. Not only do I have the price conversion from the Pass Optimal and GPP winner lineups, but I also have a bucket system tab, which talks about the US Open. So you can follow along with me as I go through this. Two important columns you want to look at is this min projection and max projection. I know it's backwards. It's just when I first created it, it's just how it works. When you're looking at these projections, there are 36 total buckets, and there are 6 buckets per stat category. So if you just wanted to look at the last year's, one thing you could do is put a filter on it up at the top of the header or the menu. You're going to see all the different buttons that you can click. One of them is filters. Hit the bucket system filter and just make sure. I think when you first get it, you're not going to have any filters currently used. But if you only wanted to look at one of these buckets, one of the stat categories, go into the filter for that stat, clear everything out, and just look at one of the buckets. This is probably an easier way to explain it to you. So we're only looking at the last year's stat. Now, the totals for how many golfers are in these buckets should match how many golfers are in the field, and that's obviously 156. So you're going to see that right here under the bucket totals. Now, when it comes to how many golfers you should play from each of these buckets, or consider, I should say, you want to look at these two columns right here. And for each of the stat categories, you can see it. So for last year ones, I have a 2.48 for the minimum and a 4.13 for the maximum. Now to read this, you always want to round down with the minimum. So 2.48 turns into 2. And you always want to round up the maximum. 4.13 turns into 5. So the projection for this bucket would be, you want somewhere between 2, that's your minimum, to 5, which is your maximum golfers that you want to pick from. Now, to add a layer deeper to this, which I'm sure is already confusing to any of you that are new, if I go to my cheat sheet and I go ahead and I only look at the last year ones, which you can do by putting a filter on this sheet, which is in the cheat sheet, clear everything out and just select one under last year, you're going to find the 22 golfers that match that description. And of these 22 golfers, this is the layer that you have to consider. The projection says 2 to 5 golfers are going to finish inside the top 10 from this bucket. It's a pretty large range. I understand it's easy to, create, be correct with that kind of projection. But here's the thing. I'm telling you, I'm projecting 2 to 5 to be inside the top 10. That should help you eliminate creating lineups with bad golfers in them. So like you can see these bottom 5 golfers right here. You have Ricky, Henley, English, Eckroat, and McCarthy. Well, guess what? You can build a lineup with those golfers. You can't do it that way. Can't do it that way. Is it something like this and this? Interesting. Something's not right. Oh, I have 6 golfers already selected. I'm like, this isn't, how is this not working out? This is 5 golfers selected. Okay, this with Scotty is 47,000. So I could actually unclick one of these guys and put in what? Can go further than that. Okay, so this right here. I could create a Scotty, Victor Hovland lineup, put Henley, English, Eckroat, and McCarthy in it. You might think that's a good lineup. I'm going to tell you right now, that's not going to win you a GPP because those 6 golfers aren't going to be in the optimal lineup. They're not even going to be a top 10 scoring lineup. Don't put together 6 golfers from this bucket. You might not even think about it because this bucket is golfers who top 20 this event last year. So you might already think, well, yeah, I want to put these guys together because they're just good. Don't do it. A popular lineup is going to start with Colin Morikawa. So a Scotty, Colin Morikawa lineup sounds pretty enticing. But who else? I mean, if you're going to select the bottom 4 golfers like I did in that last one, you're leaving $400 on the table. Don't do that. And by the way, you probably don't even have to do that. Can I go Tom Kim? I could do something like this. This equals 50,000 on the button. Scotty Scheffler, Morikawa, Tom Kim, Russell Henley, Austin Eckroat, and Denny McCarthy. Don't build a lineup like that. You're not going to win. Remember, the projection's 2 to 5. Here's the other thing. Here's that one layer I'm talking about. What's the likelihood of 5 of these golfers at the top finishing inside the top 10? It's pretty high, right? Maybe not Jon Rahm because he's battling some kind of injury or whatever. But these 4 golfers, you can include Koepka, Hovland, Morikawa, Cantlay. Guess what you can't do with those golfers? You can't put them all in a lineup together. So even if the projection's 2 to 5 and 5 of those guys at the top finish inside the top 10, the bucket is a success. But guess what you can't do? You can't put those 5 golfers in a lineup. This is what I've had to learn the hard way because I used to take that very literal. Like, yes, I do want 2 to 5 golfers. So I'm going to select my favorite 5 or my favorite 4 golfers. Well, the only way to do that to build a lineup is you're going to have to grab some of these lower price guys. And it completely eliminates the thought process of, oh, wait a minute, 5 of these guys can finish inside the top 10. So when you do your own research and you're using the bucket system, just remember that. You have to look at every bucket with fresh eyes, basically. And you have to consider the fact that these guys at the top of the salary leaderboard, as we would call it, have a very much higher chance of finishing inside the top 10 as some of these guys down at the bottom. But the fact that this projection is 2 out of 5, I can already tell you, I really like Russell Henley this week. I also don't mind Minwoo or Tom Kim. I obviously like Scotty Scheffler. I got no issue playing Rory if it's not Scotty. And I got no issue playing Xander if it's not Scotty or Rory. And I do want to pair him up with Morikawa or Hovland. I like Hovland this week despite everyone else talking about, well, you don't want to play him on these tight lie surfaces because he can't chip. That's a crock of, it's bullshit. Seriously, don't listen to those people. That's like nerds trying to get really cute with golf analysis. It doesn't work. It just doesn't work. It doesn't apply. Here are my favorite plays. Cam Smith, like if I'm going to put a lineup together, Cam Smith, Colin Morikawa, and Scotty Scheffler. Those 3 golfers, I don't mind anchoring around in all of my lineups. And then I can splash in Russell Henley. And just to give you an idea what kind of price, like what kind of salaries we got left, those 4 golfers leaves me with $12,000, which we just discussed in the Pass Optimal and GPP Win lineup segment. You can build lineups pretty darn easy with those golfers. So oh my God, this makes me, I really like this combo. So just so you're aware, I just wanted to let you guys know how to look at the bucket system. Another thing that might be confusing is like this bucket right here. Last year threes. You can see if you round down from 0.34, you get 0. You round up from 0.57, you get 1. There is a rule that you want at least a 2-point buffer between your minimum and maximum projections. So this bucket is a 0 to 2. That is the projection for that bucket. Just so you're aware, 0 to 2. When you have a bucket like this last year 4 where it's similar, there are only 2 golfers in that bucket. Be cognizant of that. 0 to 2 is unlikely to happen. And quite frankly, you can see there's been a max of 1 to finish inside the top 10 of any year that I've had salaries. Not salaries, the buckets. And you see 0 in the optimal lineup, 0 inside the top 5. Success rate's kind of high, 10%. That's pretty good. That's of all golfers from that bucket. Let's take a look at who those golfers are this year. I wonder if there's anyone notable. I haven't even looked. Ryo Ishikawa and Maxwell Moldovan. Yep, don't play any of those guys. There's just, if you want to get cute and play Ryo, go for it. But the other guy, just don't. Save yourself some money or give it to me. I'll spend it better than what you would do if you're to play Max or Ryo. Just don't do it. And that's Ryo Ishikawa. All right, so I'm actually going to open this all up and we're going to go over the anchor buckets because it shouldn't change. The field should be pretty much set. I have all 156 golfers in the field. So if you want to follow along with me, all you have to do is in the max projection, filter by condition, go greater than or equal to 2, and then hit OK. This will give you all of your anchor buckets. Now, I'm not going to go over every single one of these golfers. What I'm going to do instead is I'm going to limit what I'm looking at, but this is where you would get all your anchor buckets. That means at least 1 is in the minimum projection, at least 1. Here's actually something I just noticed. You have access to this on the cheat sheet. You see this salary. By the way, you can ignore salaries, but do you see this column over here? In purple. I have 1.95 as the max projection. If this column in the purple max projection, if it's less than 2, I want you to automatically make your minimum 0 for that bucket. So if I look at this salary 9, the 9K range is 1.20, which you round down to 1. 2.01, we round up to 2. I know it's really close to 2, but obviously this says 1.95. Now this bucket actually becomes a 0 to 3 projected bucket. That means 0 could finish inside the top 10 or up to 3 could finish inside the top 10, which is kind of, strange. And if you're wondering, this also includes my, the salaries include my price conversion. So if you are kind of doing your own homework and going, wait a minute, there aren't 42 7K golfers, there aren't 8 9K golfers, I did a price conversion. You can find that on the cheat sheet. I discussed it throughout my entire preview video. I discussed it during the Pass Optimal and GPP winning lineups. Check out those videos if you haven't already. If you're watching the preview right now, you probably already heard it. Or maybe if you weren't paying attention, rewind backwards. You're going to find it there. But that's how you would actually look at a bucket like this that has a very low projection between 1 to 3. So now that you know how to look at the buckets, I'm going to limit this and we're just going to talk about a few of the buckets. I'm going to select all the buckets that have 27 or less golfers from it, and we're going to go through the list. We already talked about the last year ones, so we're going to skip that. We're going to go to last week ones, which is a bit interesting because most US Opens, I want to show you something really quick. Most US Opens, if I go to my last year buckets, this is kind of the engine page that runs all of the buckets. I want you to look at this right here. this is salary, or these are the totals, not salary. I'm sorry. These are the totals for the last year bucket for the top and the last week bucket for the bottom. Every single year, we see somewhere between 110 to 130 golfers who did not play the week before heading into the US Open. You want to know what tournament came before the US Open? The Canadian Open. And guess what? Not everyone played in the Canadian Open. Only a few golfers would go and play in the Canadian Open and then play in the US Open. This year's different. The tournament that preceded the US Open was the Memorial Tournament, which was a signature event. So you actually had more golfers playing in the Memorial than you did any other time. We have 21 golfers who finished inside the top 20 last week in this tournament in the US Open. And like I told you, 110 to 130 that did not play the week before. Now we have 91. And this includes the live golfers, by the way. And you can see all the other numbers are higher. So I have a total of 65 golfers from last week playing this week. Any other year, the year before, 23. The year before that, 32. The year before that, 28. The year before that, 19. The year before that, 38. The year before that, 31. The year before that, 32. The year before that, 26. And the year before that, 25. Again, this year, 65. 65. Almost double of any other year of golfers playing the week before. That's going to skew these numbers slightly. And I say that, and it doesn't really matter because the last week ones are such a high quality bucket. I include the strength of field points, by the way, in these bucket projections. 41% of the strength of field goes towards this bucket. So that's why the projection is 2 to 4. Technically, it's 1 to 4 because this minimum is 3. I would drop this 2 down to a 1. So this bucket is a 1 to 4. I only wanted to mention that because it is a bit different and we can actually change the rules by using just reason. That's kind of why I'm mentioning it, because the buckets are including past success rates and stuff like that from the tournament beforehand of golfers coming into the US Open. And past Canadian Opens were much weaker strength of field events than the Memorial Tournament, which was played this year before the US Open. I know that's kind of confusing, but I hope you were able to stay along with me. I just want you just to summarize this really, really easily. Last week's tournament here, this is the 2024 US Open. The tournament before was the Memorial Tournament, which was a signature event. In 2023 and previous years, the event that was before the US Open was the RBC Canadian Open. You didn't have a high quality field in those Canadian Opens, not compared to this week's or this year's Memorial Tournament that once again preceded the US Open. So that changes numbers. It skews numbers a little bit. It's still a pretty high projection, 1 to 4. I can almost say 2 to 4 for sure are going to finish inside the top 10 from this bucket, because look at the bucket. You get Scotty Scheffler, who won last week. Rory McIlroy's in it. Xander, Victor, Ludwig Oberg, Colin Morikawa. A lot of names we've already talked about. So like I've said before, some of my favorite golfers to play would be Scotty Scheffler, Victor Hovland, Colin Morikawa. I really like Hideki Matsuyama this week. I don't mind going to Sungjae Im. Disappointed I don't see Russell Henley here, because Russell Henley is probably one of my favorite plays too this week. But I mean, you can also see golfers that were in that last year one bucket. These 4 golfers. I'm using this column right here. So these 4 golfers, these 3 golfers. Scroll down and we don't see anyone else that was in the last year one bucket. So those 7 golfers, I could see some overlap. I could see 2 of those guys, if not maybe 3 or 4, finishing inside the top 10. Just if you are hard to see, Scotty Scheffler, Rory McIlroy, Xander Schauffele, Victor Hovland, Colin Morikawa, Tommy Fleetwood, and Matt Fitzpatrick. I don't mind going to Matt Fitzpatrick this week. He showed us a little something at Jack's place last week that I think is trending in the right direction. And he's $8,200. If you wanted to select 3 golfers here, guess what? Sky Scheffler at 13, Colin Morikawa at 9.4, or even Hovland at 9.8 to go along with Fitzpatrick. Leaves you $19,000 for your remaining 3 golfers. You can build a lineup very easily this week, starting that way. So that's one way to think about it. Just one way to think about it. But again, this is all available to you on the cheat sheet, which again, you can find a link in the description below, or go to SweetSpotDFS.com to find it there. Going to the next bucket, course history 2s. Now, course history really means tournament history, just so you're all aware. And let's look at tournament history 1 golfers. You have Xander, Brooks, Tom Kim, and Min Woo Lee. There are only 4 golfers in this bucket, and it's probably because they don't have a lot of tournament history. Now, obviously, Xander does, so too does Brooks, but Tom Kim and Min Woo Lee do not. So I like this bucket. I bet you the projection isn't even that low. I'm not going to redo everything, but, you know, 1 golfer from this bucket, maybe 2 would be the max, but I don't know. Because the number's so small, like the volume of golfers are so small, you probably just want to, don't go overboard. Don't select 4 golfers from this bucket. It's just not, I don't think it's going to work out for you. But course history 2s are golfers with, you know, pretty good tournament history. Again, course history and tournament history for me is the same thing. Just I'm aware I might be confusing you. I just want you to know it's the same thing. Course history and tournament history. But this bucket has Scotty Scheffler in it, Rory McIlroy, Jon Rahm, Bryson in it. And then, hey, by the way, Colin Morikawa is also in this bucket. I've already told you how much I like Colin Morikawa. And this projection is 1-3. And that stays the same even when looking at this column here. So 1-3. I already told you we could go Scotty and like Victor Hovland if we wanted to, but we could go Scotty, Colin Morikawa, and Hideki Matsuyama. Those 3 have been in all the buckets we've already been talking about. I like those golfers a lot. Trying to find some other decent golfers. Oh no, I need to update Adam Scott's stroke gain stats. Oh, they should be. I know what I have to do. It doesn't really matter. His stroke gain stats, it's not affecting anything. But I do need to update that. So he's a different color than that dark red because he does have strokes gain data. But anyways, 1-3. And if I just selected the 3 golfers that I think are going to finish inside the top 10, you know what I do with the rest of those golfers that I have not selected? I cut them out of my player pool. I'm not gonna select any of those golfers. 3's the max that I'm gonna play from this bucket, and I think it's very doable to select 3 golfers, even the high price golfers. So keep that in mind. The next one are recent form 1 golfers, which are golfers with the best recent form coming into the event. And again, put a filter on this, make sure all the other filters are cleared out, and just select recent form 1s. We don't have a lot of golfers in this bucket. We have 11. And the projection is very similar to course history 2s. We want 1-3. You've seen Scotty in each of these buckets that we've talked about. You've seen Rory in each of these buckets. You have seen Xander in each of the buckets. No, Xander was in the course history 1, but you know what? You can still involve him. He can still be included. You've almost seen Victor in all of them. He was in the course history 3 bucket when we were looking at course history 2, but you've seen Colin Morikawa in each of these buckets. You've almost seen Fleetwood in each of them, but that's not the case. And hey, Benny Ann and Russell Henley, those are favorite golfers of mine. If I was building a lineup, like I've been kind of telling you guys, Scotty would be number 1. But I also don't mind going to Rory. But let's say if I go to Scotty, hey, there's Victor once again. But let's just stick with Colin Morikawa. We chose Hideki Matsuyama in a different bucket. Hideki's not in this bucket. So I could go Scotty, Colin Morikawa, and round it out with Russell Henley. Here's the other thing that comes with it. I know I also like Byung-Hun An. But if I'm following the sweet spot process all the way, I am not forcing that in. That's fine. I don't have to play Benny Ann. Maybe this is a way to reduce my exposure to say high owned golfers or golfers with high volatility. It is kind of a shame that I can't really play all 4 of them together. I mean, I could, but I'm not going to break my own rules. But I do like the idea of kind of building a lineup like this. I mean, it's probably Scotty, Colin, and one of these 2 guys, or maybe I just don't choose Colin at all. Or Victor, and it's Scotty with Benny Ann and Russell Henley. Maybe this is how you get off of someone like a Colin Morikawa or a Victor Hovland, and you insert someone else. I mean, like, let's look at our recent form 2 golfers. Well, Matt Fitzpatrick's there, and so too is Hideki Matsuyama, so maybe you could put those lineups together, like a Matt Fitzpatrick and Hideki Matsuyama. No one else really interests me. Like, I'm not that interested in Koepka, I'm not that interested in JT or Max Homa, but I do like Fitzpatrick. I actually don't mind Tony Finau this week, and I kind of like Hideki Matsuyama. Anyways, moving on. I'm not going to talk about the salaries. 9K range, we already kind of mentioned that. Strokes gain stats, we have strokes gain 1 and 2 buckets. And one is a 2 to 4 projection, but I might even drop that down to a 1 to 4 because this is very close to being under 3. And this is very close to being under 2. So I actually might make this a 0 to 3 bucket for the strokes gain 2. But one easy way to do this is just sort A to Z on the strokes gain stats, and you're going to see the 18 golfers in the strokes gain 1 bucket and the 24 in the strokes gain 2. I think Adam Scott will be somewhere in there once I make the updates. I don't know if he'll be in the strokes gain 1 or 2, but for whatever reason he didn't get updated to the strokes gain stats that I need him to, or the buckets. Anyways, you're going to see Scotty Scheffler's in there. Scotty Scheffler's a bad putter. That's why he's in the strokes gain 3 bucket. But when it comes to strokes gain 1 and 2, remember, this one here, I'm kind of saying it's going to be a 1 to 4 projected inside the top 10. It's technically 2 to 4. Well, there's my guy, Colin Morikawa. We like that. I also really like Cam Smith, by the way. I like Benny Ann, and I like Russell Henley. So those could be my 4 golfers. Those could be my 4. Of course, we can't do Benny Ann, Russell Henley, and Colin Morikawa, so maybe we take one of these guys out and say maybe it's Benny Ann. And actually, I could put in Tom Kim, right? Because Tom Kim wasn't in the other bucket we were looking at with Scotty Scheffler, Colin Morikawa, and Russell Henley. So maybe it's this way. These are like natural pivots that can happen with the bucket system. But yeah, 2 to 4. And it literally, and oh, by the way, this bucket will be successful if Rory and Xander finish inside the top 10 and the rest of them do not. And maybe Scotty Scheffler wins this tournament and you need Scotty. That means you probably can't play Rory, and that also means you probably can't play Xander. So although 2 golfers from this bucket finish inside the top 10, they satisfy the bucket projection, meaning it's successful. You still can't play 2 of these golfers. These are things you got to think about. Down here, we want 1 to 3 golfers to put in our lineup, or at least that's what we're projecting to be inside the top 10. And I don't think anything breaks your bank. Brooks Koepka could, Victor Hovland could. They could both break your bank. The rest of them, though, you can just jam into your lineups. So if we do think 1 golfer from this bucket will finish inside the top 10, remember I did say I'm going to change it to a 0 to 3 projection. I think any of these golfers are live, especially if you do not like Brooks or Victor. If you want to avoid them, here are your pivots. You go into the 7 and 6K range. So that's one way to look at the bucket, or all of the buckets. And that's exactly what I kind of do, but I also just use my optimizer, which I do not have built yet. I have to wait for the tee times from the PGA Tour, which usually come out on Tuesday. I mean, this will be coming from the USGA, but it'll go to the PGA Tour. I copy it from there because it's easy. I've got a whole system. And then I'll put it to my spreadsheets, the cheat sheet, my own spreadsheet, and then I will create the optimizer after I get all of the tee times into the optimizer. So be on the lookout for that. You can request that optimizer at SweetSpotDFS.com. And you know what? Before I go any further, just want to actually, before we go any further, that's the end of the anchor buckets. It's the end of the bucket system segment of the preview video. Before I sign off, I want to remind you that tomorrow, Tuesday, I will be going live at 8 p.m. Central Standard Time. So be on the lookout. I will have a video, or I will have something posted in YouTube. I'll have something posted in Twitter, X, that will say when I'm going live. I will also have the optimizer ready tomorrow before I go live. The whole website, if you are unaware, go sign up. I will have the combo buckets updated after the stream tomorrow night. You can see how the Memorial Tournament did in the meantime. Again, go to SweetSpotDFS.com, make yourself an account. Giveaways going forward will be for memberships. But if you want to be in the giveaway for tomorrow night, again, Tuesday night, 8 p.m., I'm giving away $100. Let me throw this on the screen. There we go. I'm giving away $100. I need 3 new subscribers, though. 3 new ones. And I will give away $100. If I can get 10 more after my sub goal, so if we get to 760, I'll add $10 to the pot. And for every 10 subscribers I get, I will just add 10 more dollars. So if you aren't subscribed, please do so. Highly or greatly appreciated. But yeah, that's what I have for the giveaway reminders. So if you're not on SweetSpotDFS.com, go sign up. And if you're not subscribed to this channel, subscribe so we can give away some money. That's all that I have for this preview video. Thank you all for watching. Please leave a like, subscribe, all that good stuff, and I'll see you in the next one. All right, bye.